All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming today and joining us for Modern Recruitment Marketing Strategies for 2015. Really excited to have a large number of people here. I'm watching people sign in, and that's great. We're all here to learn a little bit something about recruitment marketing. And introduce myself first. My name is Ian Alexander, and I head up marketing for Talemetry. And I'm joined by Stephen Schwander, who is our head of solutions and sourcing and marketing here at Talemetry. Also joined by Susanna Gilbert, who is our marketing manager, who will be taking your questions. And a little bit of housekeeping here up front. If you do have questions, you can ask them easily through the chat feature, which is in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. And Susanna will sort of compile those. Susanna, I invite you to jump in anytime if you have a question that's relevant to Stephen and myself's conversation. But if not, we'll hold those to the end. We look forward to learning a little bit more about recruitment marketing here for 2015. And just by way of introduction, Stephen, who is joining me, has spent a couple of decades in upper-level recruiting management positions as well as in recruitment technology over the last couple of decades. And myself, I've spent a few decades in consumer and business-to-business marketing and almost as long as those couple of decades in marketing talent management and talent acquisition software. So we kind of work together as the recruiting side and the marketing side, but really what we're here to talk about is the trends and strategies that are happening in recruitment marketing today, why those trends are important, and some of the tools that are required to support those. So I'm the marketing guy. I'll go first, and I'll talk a little bit about the parallels between recruitment marketing and sort of broad marketing, business-to-business consumer marketing. So when we talk about modern marketing, we're talking about some specific things. You need to identify your target consumer, sort of by demographic, by behavioral information. You need to segment that market so you can hone in on your best prospects. You need to develop and showcase your brand and your messaging to those key segments. You identify which channels you can use to target those potential customers that will produce the most likelihood of some sort of response, right? What method are you going to use to then engage those prospective customers? So whether that be email, video, memes, billboards, skywriting, whatever it is, you have multiple ways to communicate to those people. And then once you've sort of gotten a response from those target prospects, what tactics are you using to convert those who are interested in your solution into qualified leads or into customers? In other words, what's your offer? What is compelling about your offer that's going to make someone convert from someone with interest to someone who is fully engaged and perhaps purchasing? And then for those who aren't ready to purchase right away or to engage right away, developing a key list of non-buyers who you can then nurture and educate and develop a relationship with over time, so you have permission to communicate with them because they may need your product or service in the future. And then at the end of the day, it's measure, analyze, and refine. We live and die by it in the broader marketing world. And over the last several years, the Internet and the technology tools that have sprung up around that have really rapidly increased our ability to do that. And that's kind of rippled through the general marketing world over the last 10 years or so. And I think you'll see as we go on that those are the same trends that we can look to as very likely to ripple through the recruitment marketing side of things in the future. So just to prove it, I put together a slide that shows on one side the broader marketing segments, the steps that I kind of talked about just now, and how they map to recruitment marketing. As you can see, we look at targeting and segmentation. In the broader marketing world, we segment by demographics and behaviors, et cetera. And in the recruitment marketing world, we have these great things called job descriptions with the type of job and job categories and skills and competencies. So you've got a great way to target and segment your best prospective candidates. Brand and messaging, same type of thing. There's brand identity, brand positioning, key messages to the market. On the broader market and within recruitment marketing, there's your employer brand, your employee value proposition as your key messages to get out to your prospective candidates. Again, channels very similar. Ads are the same thing as job boards. We both deal with social media, external databases, etc. Communications, very, very similar. Video, email, events, contests, etc. And then when it comes to conversion, same type of thing. Offers, we have offers that we put out there that are compelling. Buy one, get one free. Landing pages that are focused on the people that we're trying to talk to and convert. Newsletters, education, testimonials, etc. And the same thing happens in the recruitment marketing world in terms of nurturing people in your talent networks and providing information and education and testimonials, etc. And at the end of the day, we're all measuring, adjusting, and optimizing, and that becomes key. You haven't heard from Stephen yet, so I'm going to pass it over to Stephen here so you can hear his voice and also have him weigh in on some other differences or some changes that are going on in recruitment marketing. So, Stephen?
Great, thanks, Ian. I really appreciate the the view of the connectivity between that broader marketing piece and really what's happening for us as recruitment professionals. Kind of needing to learn about that marketing approach and change the way we do recruitment. Now, I think Ian mentioned a couple of decades there, so I've got the value of looking back in history and seeing that sort of our traditional recruitment model, which still is extremely strong in most of the clients that we work with and is almost a basic way to recruit, and it's probably not going to go away, but really built around a supply chain mentality. Some of our leading ATSs are built around that mentality. So you've got sort of raw materials in terms of candidates, and you push them out the other side in terms of hires, right? So it's very transactional. It's very reactive. The company has a need to push it out there, need to fill it. It's very hire focused. How many people you hired for me today? And there are winners and losers in that process. So typically a requisition opens up on a one-to-one basis or maybe a one-to-multiple basis, but 1, 2, 3 people maybe are hired. But if you think about how many people actually apply for that role, who may be extremely good for the organization, but they end up losing because they didn't get that particular offer. So, very funnel driven and very linear and very transactional. Now, as a basic process, we can still outline that process today, but what we're trying to do is move into more of a modern approach to it. And so even though you will always have candidates in and you'll always have a hire out, and so there's always that linear process, in modern recruitment strategy sees that in that linear process there's a lot more going on, right? It's much more cyclical, it's much more network created. So that one linear process is just at the center there, but we need to be much more strategic about everything else that's going on. So what does that mean? It means building networks instead of building supply lines, right? It means being relational in the way that we treat those who are applying for jobs in our organization. I'm still amazed at how many times, other than an automated thanks but no thanks, or we got it and maybe we'll look at it someday, the lack of communication between companies and the candidates who apply for those roles. Those who are taking a more modern approach understand the value of that relational approach, and almost, I've heard the word used, recycle. I don't like recycling, but it's the idea that there are cycles of the life of a candidate, and you are connecting with them at various cycles. They might be in an application cycle now and not get that job, but they now cycle out to be a candidate for a future job, right? So it's building networks, it's being relational, it's being proactive, building talent pipelines, creating some supply ahead of the demand. And it's being talent focused. It's not just simply doing the tick box recruiting. And you know what I'm talking about, right? I've done enough recruiting in my life to know, listen, if this person doesn't have these 3 skills, we're not going to push them forward. But we want to be much more talent focused in our approach to who we're bringing into the organization and the capabilities, not just the keywords for that. And then finally, building qualified talent pools. So if we can build these qualified talent pools ahead of the need and have those conversations ahead of time and have a sense of who's out there regardless of what network they're sitting in, then we have a different approach. So that's just kind of a little, where we've been, where we're coming from. Burson did a study and talked about organizations that have a more mature talent acquisition function. So, very much more like the modern approach that I just outlined. Organizations that have that type of approach are 1.3 times more effective in the business outcomes. A lot of times as recruiters, we just feel like order takers, and we're not really part of the strategy of the business. But if we are developing a much more modern and mature talent acquisition function, we're going to deliver on the top and the bottom line for the company. These organizations are 2.6 times more effective in terms of outcomes. So if you think of all of the basic hiring analytics, if you've got a mature organization and you've got a much more modern approach, you're going to be 2.6 times more effective. 1.7 times more likely to have effective relationships with hiring managers, because as recruiters and as sourcing people, we're taking a different approach, right? We're not just filling an order, right? We're building a talent pipeline. We're helping them build their business. We're solving problems for them. Organizations are going to be 2.6 times more likely to have a robust talent pool, meaning they're not starting from scratch every time they open up a position. And they're going to be 5.3 times more likely to have effective social media campaigns. Not just pushing jobs out to Twitter feeds, but having a much more effective social media campaign. So that kind of gives a perspective from Burson on what a modern and effective organization looks like.
All right. So when we take this information and we're talking about building sort of being more relational, more proactive, getting qualified talent pools, and the question is, okay, so how do you get there? And so we did a lot of work and we put together a recruitment marketing maturity model. And I hope by the time I get to level 4, you'll kind of see it's sort of the answer is do this, because it'll get you. You don't have to think strategically with, with orbiting diagrams. You can just sort of follow these steps, and you'll get there. So level 1, these are kind of this maturity model we put together, based on our experience with. We've got hundreds of clients, and we have even more prospective clients that we talk to. So we're out there in the field. We're talking to organizations trying to solve this problem or take advantage of this opportunity. So we broke it out into 4 levels. So as we look at it, level number 1, it's kind of the basics. We're all either there or we've been there. So at this level, you kind of see most organizations posting jobs kind of manually on one or more job boards. You see organizations might be leveraging, they're doing some database searching and inviting people to apply. They might be leveraging past applicants, probably not. We often see that in this level 1, you sort of have limited channels to candidates, so that as demand rises, either in volume or for specific types of candidates, it doesn't scale very well. And we see a lot of overuse of agencies in this level because you don't have access to the kinds of talent pools and talent channels that you need to fill demand. From the candidate perspective, the candidate experience, we see one that's typically kind of a basics job page on a corporate career site with maybe a one-size-fits-all kind of online application coming straight out of your ATS. So that's kind of level 1. Level 2 is kind of characterized, and I should say, if anybody's having a hard time seeing this or reading these, I know it's small type, we'll follow up with an email after the presentation that will get you a link to the slides so you can download them and view them later. So level 2, we're seeing more automation, all right? So ads are more automated, the distribution of the ads are more automated, and companies are distributing more broadly across more job boards. Searching and sourcing becomes a little bit more centralized, so maybe databases are kind of consolidated and recruiters are accessing multiple external databases through a single tool. Might be a point solution to access those. From a candidate experience standpoint, Application processes might be a little more specialized for different types of candidates. You think hourly versus salaried, et cetera, that kind of thing. The career site is a little bit more controlled by HR, if not fully controlled by HR, and oftentimes it's a separate site from the corporate site. Some thoughts gone into how it's working as an attraction tool to attract candidates that are browsing for jobs, whether that's through search engines or whether that's on your career site in general. This level, there's more thought going into the candidate experience. Also, companies are leveraging their channels to get the word out faster to a broader audience, and again, more automation, bit better candidate experience in terms of relevance and needs, and quite frankly, this is where most companies that we see fall. So, this is kind of sort of a baseline for most companies today. There's plenty that are doing more, or maybe half at level 2 and half at level 3, or half in level 1 and half in level 2. But we kind of did this because we wanted to kind of map out kind of where we see this going in terms of levels of capability and what's available. And so people can use this. We're hoping it's useful in a way that you can kind of see where you are now and kind of see where you can aspire to. And also use it as sort of a basis for discussing some of the challenges and some of the things that you might see as you move through this maturity model. Because guess what? And I'll mention this going forward, the broader marketing world has gone through this years ago. So there's a lot of things we can learn from how broader marketing has, has attacked some of these same components. So we get to level 3, and we talk about broader marketing. Level 3 is kind of where the recruitment marketing really starts to take hold here. You've got more automation in your ads. You've got sort of a foundation in place. You're kind of looking to leverage things like pay-per-click advertising, social advertising, employee referral programs, social recruitment, putting in things like talent networks for passive candidates and to help fill future needs, organizing your talent pool into talent pipelines so that you can sort of organize large numbers of people and then begin to campaign those candidates to apply. And you're looking at things like CRM systems so that everybody can be working off a single database and tracking activities and work jointly in a single talent pool. And so all recruiters are kind of sourcing from the same place. And again, at this level, we really start to see that dependency on external staffing vendors getting reduced, and job vendors as well. So you're getting more results from your internal efforts because you're building that talent pool, and you're able to kind of put cost controls in place on some of the external things that you're doing. From a candidate experience, we now start to see multiple career sites. They might be targeted by job type or region. We see companies spinning up career sites that are maybe specific to an event or a specific campaign that you're doing. We see employee referral and internal mobility career sites for internal sourcing, and social and mobile career sites as well. So you're really targeting your career site through a candidate-specific interest, but you're also meeting them where they are from a platform standpoint. So if they're on a mobile device, you're serving up a mobile experience that's useful and enriching. Same with social. If you're on a social platform, you're able to sort of leverage their social information into an interaction or engagement or an application. Sites are more SEO optimized, but I'm not talking about sort of broad SEO optimization. Again, getting more specific to the end candidate that you're trying to attract. You're really creating career sites focused on specific job types and then doing search engine optimization so that people who land on those sites from specific keywords are getting an experience that's really more attuned to what they searched for. And of course, you're again delivering the right content to the right people. So this is very much, as you see, is very much like modern digital marketing. Your websites and social efforts are all targeted to the individual. You're reaching people from multiple standpoints. You're getting them in search. You're email campaigning them. You're touching them on social. You're attracting them through job boards. And again, all your efforts are highly targeted. So it's more sophisticated. It's more scalable to meet needs as demand increases, and again, much more targeted and relevant. And because it's so targeted and relevant, we talked about, Stephen was showing that slide of how do I get more sort of interactive, or I can't remember what the word was, but more sort of engaged in a relationship. Well, because now you're targeting people through your recruitment market efforts. You're targeting people that you're drawing to you are very targeted to specific types of skills that you need, and you're giving them that content that's specific to them. So by definition, you're getting a much higher quality of candidate. You're out of that post and pray, where you're just kind of putting an ad on the job board and then dealing with whatever comes back to you. You're getting easy talent networks, targeted ads, social marketing, and the like. You're much more in control of who you're dealing with as candidates. So at this time you're doing a lot of things, and the challenge begins to be sort of, okay, I've got a million things to do, and I don't have unlimited resources. So where do I spend my time? How do I optimize this so I'm doing more of what works and less of what doesn't work? So this is where sort of basic source tracking comes in, and the need for optimization comes in. And that brings us really squarely to level 4, where measurement becomes more difficult as you're doing all these activities. And as I said, optimization increasingly becomes more important because, again, you don't have all the time in the world and all the resources in the world. So oftentimes the problem when you get to level 4 is you've got all these different activities happening, and you're hitting candidates from multiple angles, but much of it's happening in different systems. A lot of it's happening with different groups. So you've got that multi-channel sort of broad engagement marketing in place, but you find yourself, it's very difficult to sort of track and get a holistic view of what's going on. So, for example, you may have a job ad, and you may know how many applicants that ad generated, but do you know how many dropped off at the job description? Because that can tell you something about how good the job description content is. Do you know how many dropped off mid-application? Because that can tell you something about how good your application process is and a great place to optimize. Do you know how many were deemed quality applications after applying? Because that can tell you a little bit about what channel that you're using. And how many were ultimately hired? Because it tells you basically everything about everything for that particular channel. So you've got all these various multiple touch points along the way that can be optimized, and multiply this by how many channels. You've got social, you've got pay-per-click, you've got search, you've got talent networks, you've got direct sourcing, you've got agencies, and on and on. And you can see where measurement now becomes really paramount. Another example is direct sourcing is your best source of hires. If you know, I get my best hires from direct sourcing, but your drop-off rate is twice as large for people who approach you from your direct sourcing. You want to know about that so you can optimize your career site and your application pages and ensure you get more applicants from that source. So if you can measure all these leverage points for the applicant, you also should be able to measure those for recruiters. So you can see which recruiters are yielding the most hires and what kind of activities the individual recruiters are doing to generate the best results. For example, if recruiter A is getting the most hires from direct sourcing, but they're spending a lot of their time and budget on posting ads, it's good to know about that. So you can then kind of optimize their activities, and then you can leverage people's strengths or the strengths of an activity out throughout your organization and begin to optimize your entire organization around what your top people are doing. So it becomes a performance management tool if you can measure it. And level 4 is where the realization sets in that, again, a single system is more than just kind of nice to have. It's absolutely necessary. Because you can't get an integrated view of your recruiting and realize all this substantial improvement that's available when you've got multiple systems handling different pieces of the mix and different recruiters working in different systems. And that's where technology becomes super important. And I say this because I witnessed it firsthand as a marketer. We went down this road 7 or 8 years ago, and I can tell you we had no shortage of cool tools to support every level of everything we were doing. From cool, we knew what our email open rates, our click rates were. We knew what our conversion rate was. We knew which pages were doing the best on our website. But without an integrated approach to it all, you hit a brick wall, or you can't take that next step and really optimize for, well, where are my customers coming from? Where are the hits coming from that we really need to optimize for? So been there, done that, and hope to sort of pass that along to people looking at recruitment marketing. So I guess I leave this with, where do you see yourself on this continuum, and kind of where do you want to be as an organization? And then you can kind of maybe take some of the things that we're throwing out here today in the presentation and use them as a map to kind of get from here to there. So what kinds of things do we recommend that you measure within your recruitment or marketing efforts? Certainly source to hire is the big one, but not just source to hire overall. So obviously you want to look at source for hire for all channels. But even at the channel level, you want to go a level deeper. So maybe you might be looking at job boards as a channel, and then of course you want to know what your source to hire is for specific job boards, so you can focus on certain boards over others. But you want to know which job boards work by a specific job type, and which job boards work best for specific recruiters versus other recruiters. You really need to go deep into each channel to really see where your successes are. Productivity of your sourcing activity. So for your sourcers and your recruiters, which recruiters are having success, and what are they doing if they're sourcing? What sources are most productive? Again, you can take that information and then leverage it into internal best practices and training for others in your organization. And then finally, your talent pool strength and composition. How is your central database, or this database that you're building from all these efforts you're doing, direct sourcing, ads, events, etc., how is it growing? Is it growing at a good enough clip? Do you have enough volume in your pipeline to meet future demand? How engaged is that talent pool? Are they visiting your website? Are they opening emails? How is it broken down by geography? Are you getting hires out of your talent pool? At what rate? What percentage of your talent pool are you converting to hires at any given time? Is anyone really sourcing from your talent pool? From an individual job perspective, are your sourcers talking to 50 people to get a hire or an applicant, 25, 1, none? I can't emphasize it enough. Your talent pool should be your most valuable asset, and you should know how it's comprised, because these kinds of KPIs, conversion rate of your talent pool over time, this is key to you in terms of managing future demand and really understanding sort of how valuable that asset is and how much more valuable you're making it through your efforts. And I can tell you, as a marketer, my talent pool is my prospect database. And I slice it and I dice it and I tap it for new sales or additional engagement constantly. We're looking for new market opportunities. We look at how our core database is comprised and where there might be opportunities to expand upon a product line based on who we're talking to. We definitely look at it in terms of the future health of our sales pipeline. So it's everything to every organization I've ever worked for, and yours is the same, and you should measure it, and you should optimize it from all aspects, and you should use it too. That's the first thing. You should really, really build that database and use it. So finally, candidate experience. What is your overall visitor to applicant rate? Which pages are most popular on your site? Which pages are resulting in the most applicants and resulting in the most hires? So you can ensure that the content is relevant and the process is easy. What kinds of traffic are you getting, and is it progressing from visitor to applicant? What percentage of your traffic is mobile versus web? I wish I could look at everybody's hands right now, but who knows? I'd be interested to see who knows what percentage of your traffic is mobile. It's an easy analytic to get through Google Analytics, and the ranges are minimum 30% to much more than that in terms of visitors that are visiting on mobile devices. And are you serving mobile pages? Does it matter whether you're serving mobile pages or not? In any case, are you leaving candidates on the table by not knowing exactly what's happening on your site and optimizing each visit for conversion from traffic to applicant? And the bottom line is, if you're spending 5, 6, or even 7 figures on driving people to your career site, you better be converting them at the highest rate possible. So if your conversion rate from visitor to applicant is 3%, and you're able to bump that up by a half a percentage point in terms of conversion, that's a huge drop in your cost per applicant. So it's one of the biggest leverage points that you have in terms of how many candidates you get into that talent pool. Whether it's through an application or whether it's a talent community. And the truth is, the first person that's going to bail on your career site or your application process is the person who has the job, the one that's in demand, and really your best candidate. So conversion, whether it's through the talent community or through the application process, is key there. So those are some of the key metrics that we espouse as KPIs. And I'm going to kick it over to Stephen to kind of show you a little bit about some of the metrics and analytics that are available out there.
Thanks. So I realize as I listen here and think and strategize in my mind about all different use cases, we're not jumping in depth into any one particular one. So we're not jumping in depth into career sites or into job distribution or into pay-per-click advertising or into sources and CRM, but really trying to paint a picture here, as you can tell, about a broader strategic view that pulls all of these things together and drives success. And I think you're probably getting the picture now that we really believe that an integrated platform helps us to be able to deliver for the business in a much stronger and broader way. And I think this next slide just sort of gives a picture, and this is a snapshot out of the telemetry system that just helps to show exactly what Ian was talking about. So when we take a look at source to hire, can we get a single view of source to hire from all channels in one place? As Ian mentioned earlier, I have been around for a while and I've seen multiple implementations of career sites and ATSs and marketing platforms, and I've been that global recruiting operations director that's tried to get data from several places and try to make sense of it. When we've got an integrated platform, we're able to get all of that data in one place, look at it in one place, and the nice thing about it too is that the data is reliable. It's my data. It's not the data that the media company that I'm paying, to buy media from is giving back to me. I'm still getting that data, but I can balance the data that the media company is giving me with the data that my technology is giving me, and it's not just the ATS. It's my marketing platform, and so it gives us a more reliable and a broader view of what that data looks like. So in this view that we're looking now, if I have all of these channels turned on, I want to be able to track the traffic that's coming through. I want to look at all of my job boards. This is an aggregate view we're looking at, but I want to look at all of my job boards and know how many are being viewed, how many applicants are starting, how many are completed, do I have hires against any of these? And what we're finding, the more and more that we track this through one place, our clients are starting to spend less money, or they're spending the same money but spending it in different places because we're able to track this all the way through. The same way with social. There's a lot of activity that's happening in social, but it's very difficult to track because it's happening in different places. So by generating the shares, generating the broadcast and the distribution out of a single platform, we're able to track people that are viewing the jobs and are coming all the way through to hire for social. Email campaign is another one, and this is another area that quite a few companies will often send email out to yet a third party, and then they can't track what that looks like in the entire picture. So by having a single platform that can not only distribute jobs out to job boards, but also manage the social platform, and then here manage a robust email campaign, again, I'm seeing all of that in one place. Ian mentioned agencies before. It's phenomenal when you can track what's happening with an agency, number one, from the perspective of which agencies are actually delivering. Number two, how is my agency channel measuring up against my direct sourcing channel or my email channel or my job board channel? And number three, if all of the data is flowing through a single platform, I can also tell whether or not I'm seeing duplications here of effort. So are my direct sourcing and marketing efforts bringing in the same candidates that are coming in from an agency? Well, then I know that I've got to change what I'm doing so that I'm not paying those agency fees for people that my system is already bringing in. We also want to make sure that in a single place we can track search engine traffic that's coming straight into our jobs from search engine results, so that you know, again, what your SEO is capable of producing. And then the really weird thing about what's happening on the internet today is job boards are popping up all over the place and are just are scraping our career sites and pushing them into very odd places. So by tracking referral domains, it gives us some control over understanding, what bots are out there scraping our career sites. Can we block bots that we're not comfortable with? Are there channels that we should be tracking or channels we didn't even know about? And it gives us that sort of view. So it's really important for us to have kind of that overall source to hire for all channels in one place, so that it's optimized. Number one, it's easier to pull the data together, and number two, we can make visual decisions very quickly. And then on each job and talent network pipeline, so we've talked a bit about the need to be relational and to build talent pipelines, and our customers are building pipelines either in aggregate, so through a talent network that may not be specifically tied to a job, or they're building them around a job, or they're building a process that aggregates them first in a talent in a talent network or folder, and then pushing them to apply for jobs. So by doing this all through one platform that's integrated with the ATS, I might add, we're able to see pipelines. And so this visual here just kind of shows you that when you have an integrated platform, you can see how many candidates are out there against this specific job. These candidates may have come from my direct sourcing. May have run searches on the internet, pulled them into this specific job folder, and then I've sent out invitations to apply, and I can track how many people have taken action on that invitation to apply to actually apply. So again, the integration here of the platform across your marketing, across your direct sourcing, and tying it directly back into your ATS, again, gives you that 360 view on all of your sourcing and marketing activity as it relates to your talent network pipeline and your job candidate pipeline. Ian mentioned this earlier, so we don't have to go in too deeply in here, but you really want to understand too about what that candidate journey and the conversion is. So how many people do I have in the pipeline, and are they taking actions? And if they get into the ATS, and this is what's really critical here now, it's important from OFCCP perspective, it's also important from a marketing perspective that the ATS do what it's best at, right, processing, and that your marketing system do what it's best at, and that's building these talent networks and doing the marketing of the conversion. But the two are related, right? So in this view, we can see that because we've got the deep ATS integration, I can see how many people came through my pipeline and how deep into the selection and assessment process did they get. So we might have, again, we have visibility very easily to who gets hired. But what about the people that got to the second interview, to the third interview? These are really good potentials for targeting and retargeting for future open positions. So if we can get that data into our sourcing system, then we can segment and we can start to market to them. On the other hand, we can also then push this back to our sources and say, listen, based upon this source, I got a ton of applicants from this source, but I didn't get any interviews, right? So there's good traffic, but it's not necessarily the quality that I'm looking at to get into the interview. So by tying the ATS data on the back end to the front end talent pipeline data, again, we can make those kinds of very critical decisions. So hopefully that kind of gives you a view of what happens from a data perspective when you take a much more integrated approach to building a modern recruitment marketing solution. So I want to talk in this slide just about connecting the advertising strategy and the advertising solution, as well as the sourcing and the candidate strategy and solution. Right? These are things that we want to accomplish. So as executive leaders in the recruitment space, we've got a strategy. We want to get our jobs out as quickly as possible and as simply as possible. I've sat with a number of clients that said, yeah, that's great. So it takes me 3 clicks to push a job, through, but can't we make it even quicker? How about we automate it, right? How about recruiters, you have to touch it and the job goes to the right place, right? These are the kinds of strategies that people are looking for out there. The other, the strategy they're looking for is, look, I don't want to keep paying $400, $500, $200, $120 for a posting if it's not bringing me anything. I want to optimize free, and I want to optimize diversity sites, and I want my OFCCP compliance around my advertising strategy. I want to use and measure per-click advertising. Just a little aside on this, we had a client who was spending literally $1.5 million a year on pay-per-click advertising, but because they couldn't track it separately in a solution like we're talking about, they were getting reports back from their media buying agencies about how much traction that pay-per-click advertising had, based on the number of people that were viewing it and clicking through. But they weren't translating into any kind of conversion into a talent pipeline. And because we started tracking that in a single solution, they could see back that against other channels and say, wait a minute, we're going to step way back on our pay-per-click advertising because it's not delivering us the traffic, and we're going to push that money someplace else. So, again, we want to use and measure pay-per-click advertising. We want to push jobs to social sites. So, very simply, we want to optimize our referral programs. So employee referrals, we didn't talk about it earlier, but it's a big key area for a lot of clients. We want to optimize that, and we want to track and measure that. So that's our strategy as an advertising strategy. So what's the solution? Well, number one, we need an integrated ATS job feed. Now, I know that there are a lot of vendors out there that will scrape jobs, but it's very problematic from a number of perspectives. It doesn't give you the quality of data. Ends with a lot of broken links and difficult candidate experiences. And more importantly, you don't have the tracking that we're showing is quite essential. So if you can integrate into the ATS, get the job straight from the source, you've got a much better platform for pushing advertising. How about some rules-based automated job distribution so that recruiters don't actually have to enter into your job distribution platform to push out to, let's say, Indeed, for instance, where you should be pushing all jobs anyway. Make that automatic, make it rules-based. How about full source tracking for all channels? Doesn't matter if it's a job board or a source, a social network source. We want to have an integrated tracking capability. We want to track social share and social distribution. We want to track the referral channel, right? So that would be an advertising solution to meet the strategy we talked about on the left. Now, very similar with the sourcing. So if advertising is about getting the message out there so that people will respond and come back in, sourcing is really about being more proactive, right? And we're finding that in most clients, 15 to 20% of their hires are going to come from a direct sourcing strategy versus the advertising strategy, because they're going to go out and look for people that are a little bit more passive. I'm not sure anybody is actually really passive. But they're not actively seeking, right? They're not out there throwing their applications at specific jobs. So they need a higher touch, right? So that's the direct sourcing strategy. And we want to be able to search all data sources in one place. I don't want to have to go to 5, 6, and 7 different databases to pull data in and then try to figure out, which one's the best in each of those data sources. So we want it all in one place for 2 reasons. Number one, it's simpler. And number 2, if the data is one place, I can control it and I own it. And I'm not going to pay for that data more than once. I want a growing proprietary database. I want it to be my company's database. I don't want to be constantly paying the big data people for data that I've seen before and data that I could have gotten myself. I want to build that proprietary database for myself. I want opt-in talent networks. If there's not a job that's available right now for somebody, I want them to be able to jump in and join a talent network. And frankly, if they apply for a job, I don't want them to have to join a talent network in addition. Just tick a box and say, yeah, I'd like to hear about jobs too, and now they can automatically come into my talent network and build that database for me. So those are some of the sourcing strategies that you see: email campaigns, controls of agencies. So what's that sourcing solution then? Well, how about a centralized talent pool? One place where all your past applicants sit, where all the data from third-party databases can sit, where all the data from your direct sourcing mechanisms can sit in one place and be used by the entire organization. How about an enabled talent network opt-in that doesn't make candidates apply twice and add their data multiple times just to get in the talent network? How about a federated smart search and ranking capability so that regardless of where the data came from, it can all be ranked against the same criteria? How about an email campaign marketing solution where I can take 30 people and send them an invite to apply, or if I'm a marketing person, I can select 5, 10, 20,000 people in a segmentation and send them out marketing materials, and I can trace and track what happens. How about organizing my talent pool and communicating to them to keep them warm and to build talent pipelines? And how about managing an agency portal, right? Where I know that I've got to outsource some of my direct sourcing. It's going to happen for everybody. Maybe I can keep it to 3, 5, or 7%, but I still want to manage it, right? So that's a sourcing solution. And then finally, a candidate strategy. Ian talked about some of this. How about a tailored apply process rather than a one-size-fits-all? How about greater ownership of career sites? So I'm not going back to my IT department every time I want to put a really nice landing page together for a campaign. How about advanced SEO capabilities that really help drive my jobs to the top of the line on Indeed and to the top of the line on Google? How about branded and targeted career sites that speak my employee value proposition, but to a targeted audience, right? Be that international audience or a campus audience or a military audience, what have you. And how about social and mobile enablement? I love mobile, right? 2 years ago, if you wanted to be a player in the marketplace, you had to have mobile. Today, if you don't have it, you're lost. You're left behind, right? It's no longer that strategic advantage. It's a loss if you don't have it, right? So your candidate experience has to be mobile enabled. So how do you do that? What's the solution? Branded web application forms, right? So a lot of us are dealing with ATSs, where the application process is extremely difficult. And some of our clients are bypassing that process using our web application forms. Some of them are doing very light submission process back the way we did it years ago, before we had everybody fill out everything about themselves, and then coming back and getting the data later, right? So branded web application forms that are mobile enabled, right, and social enabled. Use your LinkedIn social profile to start that job application. Make it really simple and streamlined, right? Simple to manage career site solutions. So I don't have to have just one career site that fits everybody, but I can actually have multiple landing pages and microsites that are targeted either to job categories or, like I said earlier, international or specific focus group, right? SEO career sites and jobs. Now, Ian mentioned this earlier, but if your platform is integrated into your ATS, all of the data is coming out and can be sliced into these different microsites. And the microsites themselves now have content that backs that job as well. So each job then coming out of your ATS, when it comes through a marketing platform, is SEO enabled in and of itself. Combine that into a focused career site and microsite. Now the SEO just grows from there, right? And these campaign landing pages and microsites give your candidate a much more pointed and excellent experience. So you've heard me talk a little bit about an integrated platform, and Ian mentioned this earlier, and even when I was working recruiting operations for a large company, we loved those point solution tools, right? The shiny new object. It was great because it helped us do X better, it helped us do Y better, and we loved it, right? The problem with that is, as we started to mature, what we realized is that we were, from a point solution perspective, we were lacking reliable data, right? We were losing efficiency because we were tapping into multiple systems, both from an operations perspective as well as from a tactical perspective. We were losing a lot of time maintaining multiple systems, and our recruiters were losing a lot of time, diving into multiple systems and learning multiple systems. We were experiencing disjointed candidate experiences, and you'll see that, right? You go to somebody's website, and their talent network is driven by one vendor, their career site's driven by another vendor, and none of that's integrated to the ATS, right? So you have a very disjointed candidate experience, right? And then you have disparate candidate databases. You'll have clients that have all of their past applicants in their ATS and they can't search them, right? But they've gone with another vendor for their talent network. So if they want to email market out to their talent network, they've got to go in one database. If they want to email market out to their ATS, they've got to go into another database. And all of the data that they're pulling in from third-party data just sits there and never gets used again, right? Disparate candidate databases, disjointed candidate experience. An integrated platform will give us reliable data, gives us reporting across all activities that we've seen. It reduces the technical complexity. It just makes things simpler on the IT group, and it gives you, more freedom because of the technical simplicity. It increases user efficiency. It decreases candidate drop-off, and it centralizes your talent pool across all sources so you can get it at one point.
All right, Steve, this integrated here. Oh, yep. Sorry, Steve, I just want to time check you here that we got about 8 minutes left.
Cool. Yep. So let's go on to the next one. I think we've talked about some of the great impact on recruiting operations, and you can download these next two slides because as you need to start to build a business case for doing the kinds of things that we're doing, these two slides will help you in terms of understanding how does a platform impact recruiting operations? What value is it going to bring for us? And the next slide, we'll talk a bit about. You can switch it off, Ian. And the next one on the ATS. So I want to close with this conversation because we've talked about the value of a platform, but I want to talk about the value of a platform that's deeply integrated to your ATS. And I don't care if what ATS you're using. The value of a deep integration to the ATS is that you have a central candidate search and CRM, right? You pull those out, and you can see all of your candidates in one place. You're going to leverage all your past candidates. My clients call them silver medalists, right? Alongside the new data that you're bringing in from third-party data. And you're going to see it side by side, and it's going to be so helpful. It's going to give you an end-to-end pipeline view that we looked at before. So I can see everybody that's viewing my jobs or people that I'm reaching out to, and I can see them right alongside with people who apply for jobs. You're going to get full circle source to hire analytics as we've seen. In most cases, user single sign-on. You don't have any reentry of jobs. So if you're doing a CRM platform, you've got to copy paste from one system into another. You don't need to do that if you've got the deep ATS integration. You got much more user efficiency because you're in one single platform for sourcing, and they've got all the data that they need that comes over from the ATS. You're not going to have broken job application links because if it's not live in the ATS, it's not live in your marketing system, right? And you're going to collect applications even when your ATS is down, and this is critical. So from a candidate experience, your ATS could be down for a weekend of repair, and the marketing solution is still going to capture that information and write it into the ATS when it's down, okay? And the other nice thing about being deeply integrated into the ATS is you can go at this marketing platform piece by piece. You can start with a little integration, use the data a little bit, and then go deeper as you need. So I just wanted to end with that understanding of why is it critical to have a deep integration with the ATS.
Okay, so thanks, Stephen. And I just want to sort of talk about next steps here, sort of what we've gone over and what kinds of things people can do going forward. First of all, it's never too early to start to implement a platform at any stage. We sort of talked to you about beginning with the end in mind here that at some point you're going to get to that point where point solutions are going to become unmanageable or very difficult to get the kind of information that you need to have sort of a competitive advantage out there in getting candidates. So it's never too early to start. But again, as an example, just you want to start a talent community at some point, that talent community is going to have to be measured and mixed in with everything else you're doing. So from a full recruitment operations optimization standpoint, you can deal with that. Again, as Stephen mentioned, ATS integration is key. You don't have to ditch your ATS to get a lot of this stuff, and we see that in the marketplace a lot. People feel like they're not able to execute strategies, business strategies, because their technology is holding them back. The reality is ATSs are all over the board on recruitment market functionality. Some have none, some have more than others. But you can get solutions that integrate with your ATS in a very holistic way that ties things together. And I can tell you as a marketer, when Salesforce automation became popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, it really did not support what I needed to do as a marketer on any level. And it's 15 years later now, and it still doesn't. But the good news is that my marketing automation system, the system that grew up out of the gap between what I needed to do as a marketer and what my Salesforce automation system does, works perfectly, and it ties in with my Salesforce automation tool within the company. And the same thing is at play here with applicant tracking systems and recruitment marketing systems. So I would advise people not to build your go-forward strategy around your ATS functionality, because it's always going to be great at what it does. But to execute your strategies, don't wait, don't hold back, because you're waiting for your applicant tracking system to fully support this. And then finally, we've done this for a while. We work with a lot of organizations, as I said. Call us. If you have any questions, we'd love to talk to you. We've got lots of experience with this, and we work with some pretty forward-looking companies when it comes to recruitment marketing, so we'd be happy to advise you. Finally, we also we have our own solution, no surprise there, and we'd love to show it to you. So we have a full talent marketing platform, but you can access functionality module by module and build out to that more integrated, that more broad, full platform that will give you some of the benefits that we talked about. So we're just at the very end. We might have time for a question or two. But I'm going to put on here how you can reach us. So if you'd like to reach out, you can go to Talemetry.com and sign up for a free demo, or you can contact Stephen or I through our email, and it's up there. Again, we're going to give you the slides with the follow-up email, so look out for that so you can get access to the slides. And Susanna, do we have, we may have time for one question. Are there any questions?
Yes. An ATS can offer some source tracking analytics, but not in great detail or accuracy. So what are the best ways or tools to get a more accurate, detailed view of analytics?
Stephen, I'll let you take that one.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. So again, if you've got an integrated platform such as we were showing through today, is what we're going to pull back out of the ATS is going to be that last click before they hired. What you're going to see inside your marketing solution, though, is going to be all of the other tracking. So where were jobs viewed from? What channels had conversions right into the pipeline for that. So we're going to give that much broader view rather than just that single source that the ATS supplies. And the ATS is important there because it's not just supplying that final source, which from our perspective we're actually writing in because we're able to do that, but it's giving us also then the status data that combined with all of the source data on our side gives that fuller view.
Awesome. So unfortunately we're at a hard out at the top of the hour, so we're going to have to end it up. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, the contact information is up there. I've had a great time. I speak for Stephen. I know he's enjoyed it as well. And I want to thank you and wish you a great day.
Thanks, everyone.